I'm going to explain an episode from the series Fringe, released in the year 2010. The episode opens up with Milo Stanfield, a young man who seems to be suffering from autism. He can be seen observing a lady entering a florist's shop and buying some flowers. While keeping an eye on the lady, Milo is also doing a complex calculation of the cause and effects of whatever is happening in his surroundings. He notices a passenger bus approaching, a pothole, and a bicycle rider speeding. He then crosses the road and places a ballpoint pen on top of a letterbox beside the pothole. After this, Milo walks away from there, confident that his plan will work out. Suddenly, a car runs over the pothole and splashes some water on the pen, causing it to fall on the floor and attract the attention of an elderly man reading a newspaper. When the man bends down to pick up the pen, the speeding bicycle rider tries to avert his direction, causing him to strike the letterbox and fall on the fruit shop nearby. In no time, there is chaos, and fruits are scattered all over the footpath. The lady also notices this, but she continues on her way and begins crossing the road. Because of the commotion going around, the passenger bus driver gets distracted and drives past the red light. Unfortunately, he hits the lady crossing the road and kills her instantly. Milo then walks away from there, believing that everything worked according to his plan. In the next scene, the main character, Olivia Dunham, is introduced. Olivia is an FBI special agent who serves on a U.S. multi-agency task team called Fringe. She works for the Fringe Division of the Department of Homeland Security, which deals with paranormal occurrences that are connected to experimental phenomena. Olivia seems to be returning to her office after a head injury. As soon as she enters, she's greeted by another Fringe officer, Charlie. Charlie is the supervisor of the team, who leads the Fringe officers during the investigation and also provides his team members with all the required materials. Meanwhile, the director of the agency, Walter Nate, can be seen discussing with one of the lab assistants, Philip Broyles. After a serious conversation, Broyles learns Walter Nate's motivation for keeping the fake Olivia in this universe and for implanting the real Olivia's memories into her. Walter Nate also mentions that he wants to figure out how Olivia can travel between universes and apply the method to help others do the same without getting harmed. Here, it's revealed that Olivia, who's inside the office, is not the real one. She's in fact a fake one created to fulfill her place in the agency. In the following scene, Charlie informs his crew about the 2 accidents that happened in 2 days and also mentions that a person has died in each accident. He tells his crew that the accidents seem to be routine and asks them to be careful during the investigation of the site. Moments later, the group arrives at the accident site and everyone spreads around to find some evidence or clue about the cause of the accident. Here, we're introduced to another Fringe officer, Agent Lee, a young man who has his face ruined by burn marks. He joins Charlie and his team and begins the inspection of the site. At the same time, Charlie approaches the dead body of the lady and scans her fingerprint to find her real name to be Julian Foster, a 32-year-old woman. On the other hand, Olivia inquires with the bicycle rider while Agent Lee looks around the place and discovers a ballpoint pen near the mailbox. He's surprised to see such a strange pen on the ground and deduces that it has something to do with the case. Right then, Olivia and Charlie approach him and ask him about the pen. Olivia says that the bicycle rider told her that an elderly man bent in front of him, causing him to swirl and fall on the baskets of the fruit shop. Olivia then theorizes that the accident happened after the old man bent over to pick up the pen and the bicycle rider smashed into the fruit shop. At last, Agent Lee tells everyone that the pen is the main element that gave life to a number of chain reactions and caused the accident. Back at Fringe's headquarters, Charlie and Agent Lee can be seen trying their best to figure out the connections between the 2 accidents that happened in 2 different days. During their conversation, Charlie says that he's not able to find anything in common between the accidents. On the other hand, Agent Lee believes that the accidents are caused because of a distraction and the chain reaction caused by the ballpoint pen. To prove his theory, he also spots a ballpoint pen on the floor in the picture of the other victim named Arnett, who worked in the Bryant Hospital. Agent Lee then immediately asks Charlie to inform Olivia about it and urge her to join them. In the next scene, Olivia joins Charlie and Agent Lee and they converse with a mathematician of Fringe Agency, Astrid. Agent Lee tells Astrid everything about the situation and proposes the fact that someone might have calculated all the surrounding variables and turned it in their favor. However, Astrid dismisses it, telling him that no human can calculate all the variables in the surroundings and mold it in his or her favor. But while they're arguing about it, another similar accident happens and the crew immediately rushes to the site. At the accident site, they find a bus nearly crushing an elderly man. Olivia deduces that this time the murderer didn't succeed in his aim to kill the victim. In the meantime, Charlie speaks with the bus passengers and finds out that a dog ran on the road, distracting the driver and causing an accident. Meanwhile, when Olivia suggests an injured woman to stay idle, she notices a ballpoint pen, similar to that of the previous cases. She then gets to know that the murderer is nearby them and that the commotion is not over. On looking around, she spots Milo watching them from an overhead bridge. Following Milo's calculations, a bus approaches from behind and hits another man trying to cross the road. Seeing this, Olivia runs to Milo and points a gun at him, threatening him to surrender. However, because of a bicycle, which Milo had thrown just before Olivia arrived there, a bus changes its path and drives right under the overhead bridge. Milo then jumps from the bridge, lands on the roof of the moving bus, and flees from there. After running away from the site, Milo arrives at his home, where he's greeted by his younger sister, Madeline Stanfield. Madeline informs Milo that she's been getting regular phone calls from the hospital, but Milo ignores her. Rather, he mentions that he's already studied Madeline's patterns and can easily predict her actions. As proof, he completes her sentences and feels superior until Madeline shows him a horse toy that his mom gave him before she died. Seeing the horse, Milo does not speak for a while and walks away, despite Madeline trying her best to stop him. In the next scene, Agent Lee is brought to the hospital for his regular skin checkup. Here, he urges Olivia to study the case and find out about the connection between the three victims. After that, Olivia returns to work with Charlie and speaks with one of the witnesses of the accidents. While inspecting the victims, she finds out that Arnett worked for Bryant Hospital, while Julian worked for a company that owns a medical survey group at Bryant Hospital. After the revelation, the duo immediately rushes to the hospital and meets the chief doctor, Dr. Levin. Dr. Levin takes them to his office, recognizes the victims, and also tells them about the connection between the victims. Furthermore, when Charlie tells him that he wants to meet with the other doctors, Dr. Levin stops him and shows him the video of his patients. In the video, Olivia recognizes Milo and asks Dr. Levin about him. Dr. Levin tells them that Milo is their patient who joined them for a drug trial named Nootropic, which is particularly used for enhancing cognitive abilities and intelligence. Furthermore, he mentions that Milo has gained the ability to use complicated mathematics accurately against anyone. However, he's not responding to their calls for diminishing the effects of the drugs and returning to his regular life. It turns out that Milo is killing everyone who's trying to get control of him and redo the drug effects. In the following scene, after getting the information about Milo's guardian, Madeline, Charlie, and Olivia decide to go and visit her. While they're exiting the hospital premises, Milo can be seen keeping an eye on Olivia and recognizing her patterns of movements. Moments later, Charlie and Olivia arrive at Milo's house, where they're greeted by Madeline. They inform Madeline about the atrocities that Milo has committed and ask her about his whereabouts. Madeline replies that Milo does not confide in her about anything. On the other hand, when Charlie goes to take a look at Milo's room, Madeline hands a letter to Olivia stating that she's going away from Milo and is fed up with taking care of him. In the letter, she's actually given them the location of Milo, which turns out to be a hotel named Patricia. Later, the duo decides to go and inspect the place without any backup. Meanwhile, Milo can be seen at the window of the Patricia Hotel, visualizing the scenarios after Olivia and Charlie arrive there. With his ability to predict the events, he predicts that Olivia will chase him after she sees him there. Furthermore, she'll die when she stops to take an oxygen break while running through a construction site. Meanwhile, according to Milo's prediction, Olivia and Charlie arrive at the Patricia Hotel and notice Milo waiting for them. Milo then runs towards a construction site with Olivia and Charlie pursuing him. He tries to observe Olivia's movements and does everything that he had planned to kill her. However, after running for a while, opposite to what Milo had predicted, Olivia does not stop for an oxygen break like a normal human being would do. Instead, she dodges a large number of bricks which were about to fall on her. Milo is shocked to see this, and he soon gets caught by Olivia. This proves that Olivia is not from this universe. Charlie also arrives there and asks Olivia about why she didn't stop before for the oxygen break, but Olivia herself seems not to know about it. In the last scene, Milo is inside an isolated room containing a computer. The doctor informs Olivia and Madeline that Milo's brain has become so advanced that no human can comprehend his thoughts other than a computer. That was all from the video. I hope you liked it. Subscribe for more content like this and hit the like button to help us out. Also, leave a comment if you want us to recap your favorite movie. Until next time, take care.